Any all items may be revisited prior to the final adoption of the budget, which must be done prior to May 1st of this year. John, are you live and ready to go? All right. This chart depicts the tax levy, which I'm proposing it this year to be at 2.24%, 2.24% this year, which is currently below the tax cap. This chart shows the tax rate per thousand, which this year my proposed budget is at 16.21 per thousand of assessment. Last year it was 1583. The projected fund balance right now is at 1.9 million, but that's a fluid number throughout the budget year. We have personnel costs that change over time. Someone retires that maybe isn't anticipated or isn't anticipated. So it's a challenge. It's a educated forecast at this point for what we believe will be unassigned fund balance at the end of this budget year. We currently project it at 1.9. We know that's going to change here in the coming weeks. So again, keep that in mind that it's a fluid number and it can change. Appropriated fund balance, last year we appropriated $681,000 of fund balance to the budget to balance it. This year I'm proposing that we allocate $317,952. General fund, like many local governments, particularly here in the North Country, we face challenges of declining tax revenues and increased cost. Based on our 3-year histories that we look at, we're making projections in both areas. We're pretty comfortable with these projections. So the general fund expenditures is $9.5 million. This is a pie chart of how the money is broken down in the general fund for expenses. And the next slide, when I go to, will show you the actual numbers, how it breaks down in dollars. What's always asked is what equals 1% in the budget. $56,332 represents 1% of the general fund budget this year. So if the trustees said tonight we want to cut the tax levy increase to 0, we want to get it to 0%, they'd have to find $126,352 in cuts. When the original request came in from department heads, it was $10,343,769. 24.76 increase. I am proposing $9,231,395, a 2.24% increase, which again is below the state tax cap. Breakdown of cost, never a surprise. It's employees. Local government provides services. Those services are provided by people. It takes people to provide them. People and staff. So salary and benefits is the lion's share of our budget. In this case now it's 78%. Property tax values, we continue to see a reduction in this area. This is the smallest reduction we've seen in some time. It's about just under, I think, 1.3 million for a 0.4% reduction in assessed value of property values. So rather than get into a whole bunch of other numbers, I thought we'd get more into recent successes and some of the future strategies that we're currently working on. We've been preaching this for quite some time, moving the community toward a community development strategy while continuing to play a role in economic development at the regional effort and controlling cost. Controlling cost continues to be our biggest challenge in local government. For the last 3 years, we have been working on a number of things, but in my case particularly, I've tried to do 3 things. Number 1 is, of course, to change the narrative. More optimism and a progressive style. Don't make the mistake of thinking progressive is liberal. Progressive is solving problems. That's what local government does. Problems are put in front of us. We have to solve them some way. You can pick any problem that we face in village government. Our job is to solve problems, and doing it with more optimism and getting things done. Second is to focus on community development. I think we can have great great success in that area, and we're going to demonstrate that we've done that here. And third, which is improving the downtown core. That's the first thing I want to talk about, is improvements to the downtown core. So more than a dozen businesses have opened or relocated to the downtown core in the last 3 years. In all these cases, this is simply people or entrepreneurs wanting to invest in the downtown or in Massena and believing in the community. They deserve the credit for all the success that they've had. Our waterfront. Next year, the Grass River waterfront, the downtown core, will look significantly different, with nearly $3 million of investment on the waterfront. The former Slavens building, which you see on the top left, if you go by there today, you'll see that they're working feverishly there to get that project done. The former grist mill, which is on the bottom left, 38 Water Street, that was just announced last week that that'll be totally renovated as well. And that's all part of the New York State Restore grant funding that's available. The Slavens project was also supported by funds with the Development Authority of the North Country, DANC. And of course, these are all public-private partnerships. Amici's on the bottom right partook in the Core of the Community grant that we'll talk about a little bit later, where they were able to do some renovations in the back overlooking the water. If you haven't gone there, you should go to their dining room in the back overlooking the water. It's been enhanced and improved. And on the top right is the vacant lot on Water Street, which starting this summer will be transformed into a beautiful green space with pavilions, the band shell, restrooms, parking, and dockage on the water. How were those things done? Of course, strategic planning, number one. Getting the right people together and planning. We talked about this about 1.5 years, if you remember. Rather than go out and develop a new plan, we have so many plans sitting on shelves down there. We take them out and we just take pieces and parcels of those that work for us, and we work on those projects, and it's proven to be very successful for us. Entrepreneurial enterprise and people wanting to invest in the community and putting their money and their talents and their gifts of just the desire to improve the community is making a big difference. Creating an environment, changing the culture, changing the narrative. Then comes the funding, our grant writing. We've been highly successful in that area. And then of course it's the private-public partnerships that are so successful in any state today. Using local resources to leverage public funding, particularly at the state level, to make investments in communities. What has our role been done, the village board and local government? Well, we contracted with Strategic Development Strategies for grant writing. They've been incredibly successful. We've developed strategic development teams, moving Massena forward, the Downtown Revitalization Committee, various teams working together on various projects. Sometimes those teams are intertwined, working on the same project or different projects. Sometimes they work separately. A key to the 2 projects that we just talked about on Water Street, the 485A tax abatement. This board, the town board, and the school board passed the 485 tax abatement. So now anyone that wants to invest in the downtown core, if they can take a standalone structure that's for commercial use only, create it to a mixed use, which is residential, they're eligible for that tax abatement. And anyone that's had any success in reinventing or reinvesting in their downtown will tell you, you have to get people living in the downtown core. Big piece of making those two pieces of property and those projects happen. The core of the community that I briefly touched on, partnership with the RVRDA Community Development Fund, where we made $125,000 available to local businesses for new signage, interior build-outs, and facade improvements. A number of businesses, 14 as a matter of fact, have taken advantage of this that have made improvements to their business because of that grant. Public-private partnerships. We only provided a portion of the project money. They had a substantial amount of money on them themselves. And to a couple of them, it was the difference between them doing the project or not being able to do it. We're changing the narrative together, not just us. Talk to any person that's in the downtown core with us, or that has been in the downtown core. They want to be downtown, they like the downtown, they're enthusiastic about it. So we're changing the narrative about the downtown. And let's not be fooled. We've got some problems. We've got a lot of work to do, but we're changing the narrative and we're moving forward. And of course, we don't want to forget the people that have been here for a while and continue to be in the downtown and in our community that have already made those investments, that have invested for years in this community. So we want to do things to help them as well. For years we've been talking about community development and the difference between that and economic development. So some examples, and these are just some of them, but grassroots coalitions, public-private partnerships, housing programs and grants, recreation, improving our neighborhoods, supporting current businesses, dealing with blight. The trustees actually passed a local code identifying blight and putting provisions in place for code to deal with it. In fact, we dealt with one today at blighted property. Infrastructure improvements like the 1 gigabit internet project, complete streets, increasing our recycling from 17 to 24%, which allowed us to make capital equipment purchases within that account so we didn't have to pass those purchases on to the ratepayers, keeping those rates steady. Improving our green spaces, conflict resolution in the courts, public safety approaches, our partnerships with the Community Drug-Free Coalition, education. Look at Massena Central, who's launching a community schools model. That's going to be significant for the community. Our partnership with the Boys and Girls Club and Horizons Next Door, where we're giving kids a place to go during those critical after-school hours where they typically get in trouble. They now have legitimate, safe places to go and get off the street. The People Project that the Teachers Union is embarking on, and many other things like improving our parks and playgrounds. That's community development, folks. It creates and it can help and foster economic development, but it's community development. You know, let's be honest, this community has essentially, by and large, and again I'm speaking for myself, no one else, sat around and watched this community decline. We have invested in one thing, which was economic development, and unfortunately we haven't had the resources to truly invest in it to have great successes. So you'd have to ask your question, the question is, why would someone want to come to Massena? What's the attraction? Why choose Massena? I kind of liken it to buying a car. If you go to a car dealership and you get on the lot and the cars are dented, they're dirty, they don't look good, you go to the next place to buy your car. But if you go to a place and the cars look nice, the price is right, and there's no dents in those cars, maybe you're going to do some business there. And that's the goal of community development. We want to make Massena the shining car. We want to make Massena the place that people move to the North Country or want to move somewhere within the North Country. We want them to come to Massena because they have this, they have that, we like that. Hey, look at that, look what's going on in Massena. That's our goal with community development. And when you do that, you spur economic development along the way. Another area that we've had great success is grant funding. Since taking office in 2014, we have successfully secured over $6 million in funding locally. That's substantial dollars from the outside coming in here to do those projects on Water Street, to do some of these projects downtown, to do a number of things, infrastructure and other things. That's significant work, and it's paying dividends all over the community. We've made a big investment in housing. We talked and talked and talked about blight. We're doing something about it. We expanded our housing office, partnering with the Development Authority of the North Country to administer. Currently, they're administering more than $853,000 in grants. That's 15 homes that are going to be sold to first-time home buyers. 11 are already in their homes. 10 housing rehab projects, 3 more coming. And the code office is currently dealing with a zombie property grant, and that's prevention. That's to prevent houses that could become zombie properties from becoming it. So working with them to prevent those from becoming vacant, and then of course totally blighted properties. How'd we do it? It's partnerships. Gone are the days that we're going to operate in a silo. I think we did it for far too long, and I think a lot of communities in the North Country were doing that. Those days are gone. The past is the past. I'm not here to blame anybody, and we're really not here to take credit. I'm just telling you in the direction that we're going. And the future of Massena and the North Country are completely dependent upon solid partnerships. And let me tell you some examples of what I'm talking about. Just talk locally. Here's a simple partnership that we did. 3 years ago, Massena Court was bursting at the seams, their caseload. It's still the busiest court in the county. But they weren't utilizing the services of the Justice and Law Center of New York. And that's a mediation and conflict resolution that goes into courts, takes nonviolent minor cases, pulls them out of the judicial system, and mediates those cases with people. Again, nonviolent minor cases. They adjudicate the case, or they resolve the issue by mediation, they take it back to the court signs off on it, so it's adjudicated, and the case is done. So in 30 months, they've resolved more than 1,000 cases that way. If you were to add up the savings in attorney fees, the court fees, people losing time at work, et cetera, it's hundreds of thousands of dollars in savings locally. The people, taxpayers, and the court. And think of it in this term too. So 2 people have a minor dispute. Let's say it's a harassment situation. It gets pulled out, they resolve it. Both parties get to solve the case together. They come to a resolution. So they both buy into it, it becomes a mediated resolution. Hopefully you're going to have greater success in the future from preventing that from happening again. That's a simple example of creating partnerships at the local level. Let's talk regionally, and we've got a ton of them, but I chose NYPA in this case, our partnership with New York Power Authority. So regionally, we adopted the St. Lawrence County Economic Development Study in 2015, which is ongoing. You know, we're hoping to see results sooner, but certainly by 2020, there should be significant results from that. Communities in St. Lawrence County are collaborating and working together on economic development with NYPA's leadership and assistance, and leadership with the county IDA, who should be taking the role in St. Lawrence County with economic development. And they always have, but again, we operated in a silo. Other communities operate in silos. We're getting rid of those silos. We're all working together. NYPA hired a North Country Economic Development Manager who's doing a great job of connecting the dots, getting us to work together, keeping us on task, making sure that we're all pushing and pulling in the same direction. They've hired OCO Global to attract companies from around the world to here in St. Lawrence County. And they have the riverfront communities working together like never before. So for example, Massena, Louisville, and Waddington, we meet at least monthly to talk about various projects that we can work on collaboratively and what good things are happening in each other's community. And that's all because of our partnership with NYPA. A number of other regional partnerships that we have. The Regional Economic Development Council, which of course we've obtained funding from every year. The Development Authority of the North Country. Man, we have an incredible partnership with DANK. The Chamber of Commerce. Akwesasne, Cornwall, and Massena Chamber of Commerce are now meeting and working together on areas of common interest. That's an international cooperation. They received an award in Ottawa a few months ago because of that. That's a gold standard way of working together, and we're really proud of their efforts there. The Ogdensburg Bridge and Port Authority, the Power Authority, as I've mentioned. Massena Central Schools. We work very well on a number of issues, particularly in the public safety issues and in the education issues with them. The Town of Massena, the City of Cornwall, the Governor and his team. St. Lawrence County, County Planning Office does a considerable amount of consultation with us, and we can rely on them in a number of ways. The administrator herself and a number of the board members have worked with us. Something that's happened on the south side, the town of Norfolk, we provide potable water with them. Our superintendent has worked with them to provide water to Cook Street, Huff Road, and Heidi. Example again of regional partnerships where they had a problem, a need, and we were able to work with them to do that. When I spoke about changing the narrative earlier, this is one of them I'm talking about. Building relationships. So people from state leadership, state government, cabinet heads, commissioners, agency heads, all here in Massena to collaborate with us on a variety of issues the last 3 years. These people have been in Massena for a number of reasons. That's partnerships, folks. That's how we get things done. Not just complaining about people not supporting us, but inviting them to our community, explaining what's wrong, telling them our ideas, and finding ways to collaborate together to get things done. That's partnership. So, you know, think of it in terms of, you know, everybody has a piece of the puzzle, particularly in the northern New York, because no one has all the resources. None of us do. Nobody at any level does. So if we all get together, work together collaboratively, we all bring a piece together, we can make smaller things turn into much bigger things. Talk a little bit about controlling cost. This shows where we are, where we were, and where we are. Wages are now at $3.7 million. Benefits are now at $3.7 million. So what drives part of that is the fact that we have a number of retired employees that draw some form of health care, whether it's full health care or other portions of health care that we subsidize. So our benefit package in total for the village has caught what we're currently paying in wages. Shows the expense from last 6 years as general fund expenses. One of the keys to controlling cost. Last year we had representatives from the Department of State here that made a presentation to us about local government citizens reorganizations and the empowerment grants. Last month we filed that application. Hopefully we'll be hearing in the next month or so on those grants are awarded monthly. So hopefully we'll be hearing good news on that. We have agreements with the town of Louisville, the town of Massena, and of course ourselves to pursue this study. to look at what we can do. And where that lands, we don't know where that'll land. Whether it's some form of reorganization, whether it's a form of consolidation, whether it's a form of reorganization, merging departments, whatever the case may be, whatever the recommendations should be. I plan to take that study very seriously and look at the best way that we can serve our community. In my view, I think we have too much local government in this community. We've got to do something about that. The numbers, that's where they currently are as I propose them. Again, it's a 2.24% increase. As always, I extend my thank yous to everyone. Schedule. These are all public hearings. People are welcome to attend and watch the process as we go through the budget. And before I take questions, I just want to close and summarize the presentation. So after the years of decline, we're seeing signs of improvement here in Massena, in our downtown, in our neighborhoods, and in the housing market. We're making progress. We're working collaboratively like never before with our partners at every level on economic development and community development. Now, there are people out there that aren't happy at this point, and as the deputy mayor said to me on the phone, so I'm going to give him credit for stealing this, but there are people out there with unreasonable expectations of pace, which is fine. But we've changed the narrative, we're making progress, so I say to people, if you're not happy with the pace, if you're not happy with the condition of this community, come to the table, get in the game. Don't stand on the sideline and complain. Get in the game, help us, because we can use all the help that we can get. Happy to take public comment. Sir.
Hi, I'm Charlie McGrath. I came here to help you, I guess. It seems that you're running into the same problem every year, and you had earlier indicated that your job was to solve problems. I read in the newspaper today that your greatest challenge is the increase in healthcare costs for the employees, and I can see by your chart that employee benefits and wages are about the same, but they take up 78% of our budget. Last year it was 76% of the budget. I don't know if you can see the trend line or not, but it's there. Someday it's going to be 100% of the budget. So we're not going to be able to do anything for the people. You're just going to be able to pay yourselves. And that's where we're headed. Healthcare costs, it seemed to me that your assumption is a little flawed, and that as healthcare costs increase, you assume that all of that is going to be passed to the taxpayer. And I'm not certain, but I think the employees in the village pay virtually nothing toward their health care. I believe the police department may pay $10 or $15 a week, what's my understanding. And someday we're going to come to the precipice, and the employees and the retirees are going to have to start contributing to their health care benefits. Right now, your health care plan for the village is about $2,000 a month per employee, per family plan. I don't see that virtually anywhere else in the community, so, except for the town. But the county doesn't have one that high, so, you know, I don't know how long we can keep this up, because I know you're a beneficiary of the village benefits, and so was Francis. And it's really difficult to be in your position to negotiate with your friends and tell them, no, you're going to have to start paying for some of your health care. And no, you can't have a raise this year, because these increased personnel costs are going to break us. And so we have less money for roads, less money for equipment for the police department, because we're using it all up in personnel, payroll, and benefits. And comparative to the outside world in this village, you guys make pretty good money regardless of what position you hold in the village. And so we're going to run out of money. And, you know, one of the troubling things that you noticed on your chart is that our taxable valuation, our houses are becoming worth less and less, so you guys have less to justify, say, well, remember in the old days when inflation was taking place, and my uncles told me, I always wanted to live in a $100,000 home. Well, he paid $40,000 for his home, but by the time the assessments got done after years, he finally lived in a $100,000 home. But we can't justify that anymore, increased assessments. There's no way that you could come along and say, well, your house is worth more this year in Massena. So we're in trouble. And I appreciate all the pats on the back that we're giving ourselves for a lot of the things that are going to be happening in the community. But our base, our financial base in this community is wearing away, and yet the public servants are still getting pay increases. They're still getting unlimited health care benefits virtually as the costs go up. And I'm just not certain that this community is going to be able to bear those costs any longer. We continue to do so, but we have less for the people and more for the servants each year. And so we're gonna have to face that reality. Of course, I'm the only one here that's saying anything about that. Most people are either afraid or don't care anymore, or think that it's water over the dam, there's nothing that we can do about it. But you guys are in charge, and you need to keep those costs from increasing for us. And one of those solutions is, because 39%, that's, you know, you made a point of that, it seems to be a little out of focus. And so I think the employees, or you're going to have to try to convince the employees that, hey, you guys are gonna need to kick in for some of your health care benefits. And so, you know, that's the solution that I bring to you. It's not a pleasant solution, but that's what I do for a living, is bring solutions, but not necessarily pleasant financially. And this only makes sense to me, that we have to do this. And we have less and less and less going. We had, what, $70,000 for capital projects this coming year? That's not very much. You know, we have trouble fixing our roads. Everybody complains about the roads. You know, we have potholes everywhere, but, you know, when you're spending 78% of your budget on employees and benefits, we can't get much done around here. And even though the guys are doing a good job with what they have, you're not serving the public as much as I think you should be able to. But I just think that the employee costs are getting out of hand, and it's unfortunate. But that's where we're headed, and I can only see that in the future. So you need to consider that next time a contract comes up, and rather than assuming that we're just gonna hand whatever increase in healthcare costs to the employee, and we'll take that out of the taxpayer, because last year it was 76%, now we've got 2% less money to give to the people. Now we've got 2% more to give to the employees. And so that just doesn't seem fair to me as a taxpayer. And I can't vote you out of office because I don't live here. But I do pay taxes here, and my village taxes now are the highest tax that I pay. And it used to be the smallest one. And so we're headed someplace where if we keep going, we're gonna get there. So, you know, please consider a little bit of that, and make some hard decisions. Somebody has to do it, and we haven't been able to do that in decades. So, you know, thanks for listening to me, and you know, I wish you good luck.
Thank you, Mr. McGrath. Further public comment? Trustees. I entertain a motion to close the public hearing. So moved. Mr. Lepere, second by Mr. Carvel. Discussion. All those in favor signify by saying